Title: The Shadows of Willow Creek. Nestled deep within the mountains of North Carolina, the small town of Willow Creek had always been quiet, almost forgotten by the rest of the world. Its population was modest, and its streets lined with charming colonial-style houses. But beneath the town's quaint exterior, a dark history lingered, one that had been buried for over a century. In 1895, a mining accident claimed the lives of 23 men when a tunnel collapsed deep in the mountains. The mines had been abandoned ever since, and rumors of ghostly sightings spread through the town. Over the years, the whispers died down, and the town moved on, but the mountain never forgot. Present-day Samantha and her husband, Kyle, had moved to Willow Creek from New York City, hoping for a fresh start. Samantha, an artist, was captivated by the town's old-world charm, while Kyle, a history teacher, was intrigued by its rich past. They purchased a fixer-upper on the outskirts of town, not far from the old mines. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. The house was cozy, and the townspeople were friendly. But then, strange things began to happen. Late one evening, Samantha sat in her studio, working on a new painting. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp, casting shadows that danced on the walls. As she mixed her paints, she heard a faint tapping sound coming from the window. She looked up, expecting to see the wind moving the branches outside, but there was nothing there. She shrugged it off and continued working, but the tapping persisted, growing louder, more insistent. "Kyle," she called, but there was no answer. Suddenly, the tapping stopped. Samantha felt a chill creep down her spine as the room seemed to grow colder. She turned back to her canvas and gasped. The face she had been painting, a serene portrait of a woman, was now distorted, its eyes hollow and mouth twisted in a silent scream. Her heart raced as she grabbed a cloth and wiped the canvas clean, her mind reeling. Was she imagining things? The next day, Kyle returned from his evening jog with a troubled expression. "You won't believe what I found," he said, pulling out an old, rusted key. "I found it near the trail by the mines. There's something off about that place, Sam." I could feel it. Curious, Samantha suggested they explore the mines the following day. She wanted to see if the stories about the old mining disaster were true, but she also couldn't shake the eerie feeling from the night before. The entrance to the old mine was overgrown with weeds and brambles, and a rusted, "Keep Out" sign hung loosely on the fence. Kyle cut through the vines with a machete as they made their way inside. The air was thick and damp, and the only sound was the soft echo of their footsteps. As they ventured deeper, Samantha began to feel uneasy. The darkness seemed to press in on them, and the walls of the mine felt as though they were closing in. They rounded a corner, and there it was, a tunnel, the one that had collapsed all those years ago. It looked untouched, frozen in time. Suddenly, Kyle froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Samantha strained to listen. At first, there was nothing. Then, faintly, she heard it. The sound of whispering, barely audible but unmistakable. "Kyle, let's get out of here," Samantha urged, her voice trembling. But Kyle was already moving toward the collapsed tunnel. "There's something here. I need to see." As he approached the tunnel, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It was as if dozens of voices were calling out to them. Then, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. "Kyle, no!" Samantha screamed, but it was too late. A figure emerged from the shadows, a miner, his face covered in soot, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. He reached out, his skeletal hand clutching the rusted key that Kyle had found. Behind him, more figures appeared, their ghostly forms flickering in the dim light of the mine. "Run!" Samantha yelled, grabbing Kyle's arm. They sprinted through the mine, the whispers chasing them, growing louder, almost deafening. As they reached the entrance, the ground shook violently, and the tunnel began to collapse behind them. They barely made it out before the entire entrance caved in, sealing the mine once more. The haunting begins back at their house, things only grew worse. Every night, the tapping at the window returned, louder and more insistent. Shadows moved in the corners of their vision, and the whispers from the mine followed them, seeping into their dreams. One night, Samantha awoke to find Kyle standing at the window, staring out into the darkness. "Kyle," she whispered, her voice shaking. He didn't respond. She approached him slowly, her heart pounding. As she reached out to touch his shoulder, he turned to her, his eyes vacant, his face pale. "They want the key, Sam," he whispered. "They won't stop until they get it." Terrified, Samantha backed away. "Kyle, we have to leave. We have to get out of here." But it was too late. The shadows in the room grew thicker, swirling around them like a living entity. The whispering filled the air, louder and more sinister than ever before. Suddenly, the front door slammed open, and the ghostly figures from the mine stepped inside, their hollow eyes fixed on the couple. The leader, the same miner who had reached out to them in the mine, held out his hand. In it, the rusted key glowed with a dark, malevolent energy. "They want it," Kyle repeated, his voice hollow. With trembling hands, Samantha grabbed the key from Kyle's pocket and threw it toward the miner. As soon as the key left her hand, the figures vanished, and the room fell silent. But the silence was short-lived. A deep, guttural voice echoed through the house, shaking the walls. "You've given them the key," it whispered, "but the door has been opened. The shadows will never leave." Samantha and Kyle fled Willow Creek that night, but they were never the same. The whispers followed them wherever they went, a constant reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed. The town of Willow Creek continued on, unaware of the darkness that had been unleashed once more, but the shadows remained, waiting for their next victim. In Willow Creek, the past never dies, it just waits.